We live in a time when the world fits in our pocket. At any moment, we can see the face of a friend on a screen, send a message across oceans, or scroll through the lives of thousands with a single flick of a finger. And yet, something feels empty. Not loud. Not sharp. But quiet. Like a slow leak in a tire or a light flickering in the back of your mind. It's loneliness. Not the kind that comes from being alone, but the kind that lingers even when you're surrounded. You can sit in a crowded room and still feel like no one sees you. You can laugh at dinner, text all day, post smiling photos, and yet still lie in bed feeling like you're the only person left in the world. This is the loneliness of our time. Quiet, invisible, and growing. But what if it's not your fault? What if this isn't some personal flaw, but a symptom of something deeper, something we're all breathing in without realizing? We were made for human connection. Real connection. Eye contact, shared silence, unspoken understanding. But what we've built instead is a network, not a bond. Notifications, not conversations. Followers, not friends. And over time, it rewires the way we relate, not just to others, but to ourselves. We begin to filter. We polish. We present. We hide the messy parts and share only what feels safe. But connection without vulnerability is just performance. And performance is lonely. Loneliness isn't always sadness. Sometimes it's numbness. Sometimes it's restlessness. Sometimes it's a quiet feeling that nothing quite matters, and you don't know why. Sometimes it sounds like, I don't want to bother them. They probably don't care. I'm just tired. We tell ourselves stories to explain the emptiness. But often, the truth is simpler. We miss feeling seen. We miss being understood. We miss the kind of presence that says, you're not alone, even in this. But here's what no one tells you. You're not broken for feeling this way. You're not weak. You're not strange. You're human, in a world that forgot how to hold space for human needs. Loneliness isn't just a feeling. It's a signal. A message from your body and mind that something essential is missing, not luxury, not extra, but essential. And the first step isn't fixing it. It's recognizing it. Naming it. Giving yourself permission to say, yes, I feel alone. And that matters. That's not weakness. That's courage. Because once you see it, you can begin to listen. And once you listen, you can begin to heal. Even if slowly. Even if imperfectly. Even here, even now. There's a reason loneliness hurts. Not just emotionally, but physically. Your brain doesn't treat it as a small inconvenience, it treats it like danger. Real, urgent, primal danger. Because for most of human history, being isolated meant death. Being excluded from the tribe, unheard, unseen, it was fatal. We needed each other to survive. And even though the world has changed, our wiring hasn't. That's why loneliness isn't just sadness. It's a survival alarm. It tells your nervous system that you're not safe. That something is wrong. That you're at risk, even when there's no obvious threat. So you get anxious. Or numb. Or unusually tired. Your sleep suffers. Your immune system weakens. You stop wanting to do the things you used to enjoy. The colors fade from the world. It feels like your soul is underwater, blurry, heavy, hard to move. And the cruelest part? The more lonely you feel, the harder it is to reach out. Your brain, trying to protect you, becomes hyper-aware of rejection. A simple no can feel like a full-body wound. A lack of response from a friend feels like proof that you were right to hide. You retreat deeper. You smile more on the outside. You disappear inside. This is how loneliness traps people, not through isolation, but through silence. You tell yourself things like, everyone else seems fine. I should be grateful. It's probably just me. But it's not just you. It never was. Millions, maybe billions, feel the same quiet ache. The same disconnection. The same tired pretending. It's not a personal failure. It's a human pattern. Because somewhere along the way, we replaced connection with contact. Relationships with replies. Presence with performance. And the worst part? We started to believe this is just how life is now. But it doesn't have to be. True connection doesn't require hundreds of friends or a perfect social life. Sometimes, it begins with one moment of honesty, even just with yourself. One pause in the pretending. One gentle, quiet admission. I miss people. I miss being close to someone. I miss feeling like I matter. Those aren't signs of weakness. Those are signs of being real. And realness is what heals. So if you're here, reading this, you've already done something most people never do. You faced the silence. You opened the door to your own heart and said, I want something better. That's not small. That's the beginning. Sometimes, loneliness doesn't feel like loneliness at all. It hides. It shows up as scrolling endlessly through your phone, hoping something will make you feel less alone, but nothing ever does. It looks like being in a room full of people, laughing at the right times, saying all the right things, but feeling like no one really sees you. It feels like working hard, staying busy, keeping your life together, and wondering why, at the end of the day, you still feel so empty. You might even tell yourself, but I have friends. But I talk to people every day. But I'm not technically alone. And still, that feeling lingers. The one you try to ignore. That quiet ache, like something is missing, but you can't quite name it. That's emotional loneliness. It's not about being around people. It's about being known. You can have 1,000 contacts and feel invisible. Or one person who truly gets you and feel whole. Because connection isn't about quantity. It's about depth. It's about safety. It's about having someone who sees past your surface and still chooses to stay. Someone who listens without trying to fix. Who lets you feel what you feel and doesn't try to make it prettier. We live in a culture obsessed with highlights, with filtered photos and perfect moments. But real connection is raw. It's awkward. It's honest. And yes, it's risky. Because to be loved, you have to be seen. And to be seen, you have to take off the mask. That's terrifying, especially if you've been hurt before. Especially if people have walked away when you finally showed them the truth. But hiding is a slow kind of heartbreak too. You deserve more than surface-level friendship. You deserve more than polite small talk. You deserve relationships where you don't have to shrink, perform, or apologize for existing. And believe it or not, those relationships are possible. They just require something rare. Vulnerability. The willingness to go first. To say, I'm struggling. To ask deeper questions. To let silence sit for a moment instead of filling it with noise. Not everyone will respond well. Some people won't understand. That's okay. Because the ones who do, the ones who lean in instead of away, those are your people. And sometimes, it only takes one of them to change everything. We don't talk enough about how loneliness changes you. It's not just a feeling. It's a force. One that reshapes how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you show up in the world. When you've been lonely for too long, you start to pull away, not because you want to, but because it hurts less to expect nothing than to be disappointed again. You stop reaching out. You convince yourself people are too busy, too distracted, too uninterested to care. And slowly, the silence becomes normal. You might even forget what real connection feels like. You settle for casual conversations, emojis instead of emotions, routine instead of intimacy. You tell people you're fine. You smile. You function. And deep down, you feel like a ghost in your own life. This isn't weakness. This is the survival instinct of someone who's been alone with their pain for too long. But here's the truth: loneliness lies. It tells you no one would understand. That you're too much. Or not enough. That your loneliness is proof that something is wrong with you, that you're broken, unlovable, invisible. None of that is true. Loneliness is not a personal failure. It's a human experience. We all crave connection. We all need to feel seen, heard, and valued. And when we don't get that for long enough, our hearts begin to dim. Not because they're defective, but because light needs other light to grow. So if you're in that place now, that quiet, aching place, don't judge yourself. Don't give up. Don't believe the lie that this is how it will always be. Because loneliness isn't a destination. It's a signal. A message from your soul telling you something important is missing. Not attention. Not popularity. But real human closeness. And the beautiful thing is, it's still possible. Even if you've been alone for years. Even if you don't know where to start. Even if you've been hurt before. The heart remembers. It heals. It opens again. But only if you let it. There's a quiet strength in those who carry loneliness without showing it. They wake up, get dressed, go to work, reply to messages, post stories, maybe even laugh at a joke, and no one sees the ache behind their eyes. They've learned to blend in. To perform normal while feeling like something's missing that they can't name anymore. But the truth is, we weren't built to do this alone. Our nervous systems are wired for connection. A simple conversation can lower cortisol. A hug can regulate your heartbeat. Just hearing someone say "I'm here" can soften years of guarded silence. Loneliness isn't just emotional, it's physical. Chronic loneliness affects your immune system, your sleep, your memory, and even how long you live. It's as real as hunger. And just like hunger, it's not something to be ashamed of. So why don't we talk about it? Because admitting loneliness feels like admitting failure. Like you weren't lovable enough, interesting enough, popular enough to be chosen. But that's a lie our culture taught us, that being surrounded means you're loved, and being alone means you're not. You can be lonely in a marriage. Lonely in a group chat. Lonely while scrolling through hundreds of photos of people smiling on beaches and cafes and perfect golden hour lighting, while you sit in the dark, comparing your inside to their outside. Loneliness isn't about how many people are around you. It's about how known you feel. And in a world obsessed with connection, most of us feel more unknown than ever. So what do? We start by reaching, even if it feels awkward. We check in on others, not because we're okay, but because they might not be either. We choose presence over performance. Depth over distraction. One real conversation over 50 likes. We remind ourselves that even now, someone out there understands exactly how you feel, and they wish someone would say it first. Maybe that someone is you. There's a powerful shift that happens the moment you stop waiting. Waiting for someone to notice. Waiting for the perfect friend, the perfect moment, the perfect reply. Waiting for loneliness to go away on its own. Because loneliness doesn't disappear through silence. It dissolves through brave action. That doesn't mean grand gestures or instant friendships. It means small choices, the kind that feel almost too small to matter. But they do. Sending a message, even if it's awkward. Sitting next to someone instead of apart. Saying "How are you really?" instead of "What's up?" Letting someone see even 10% more of the truth you usually hide. These are acts of courage. Not weakness. We think strength means being independent. But real strength is the ability to depend on someone when you need to. To say, "I could use some company." Or even just, "I'm struggling." That's how real connection begins. Not with flawless timing or perfect compatibility, but with honesty. And here's the truth: you don't need 100 people. You need one. One person who listens without fixing. One person who sits with you in silence and doesn't make it awkward. One person who doesn't need you to be entertaining, smart, or strong, just real. But to find that, you have to be that. Be the person who asks twice. Who stays a little longer? Who doesn't scroll past someone else's pain? You don't have to fix everything. Just be there. And little by little, you build what everyone secretly needs, a space where it's okay not to be okay. A space where loneliness has no power, because you're not alone in it anymore. Loneliness is loudest when the world is quiet. At night, when the messages stop coming. In crowds, where laughter echoes and none of it is yours. In moments of success, when there's no one to share it with. And yet, the solution isn't always other people. Sometimes it starts with you. We spend so much energy trying to get seen, liked, followed, included. But how often do we sit with ourselves, really sit, without distraction, without judgment? Not to criticize. Not to escape. But to ask, gently, what do I need right now? Because loneliness isn't just the absence of people. It's the absence of connection, even with yourself. Some people are surrounded by friends but feel empty. Others live quietly, alone, and feel full. The difference? Self-acceptance. Self-kindness. Self-presence. When you learn to befriend your own mind, loneliness loses its grip. Not because you don't need others, but because you no longer feel like a stranger to yourself. And here's the paradox. The more comfortable you become in your own company, the easier it becomes to connect with others. Because you're no longer seeking to be completed, just to be understood. Loneliness is real. It hurts. And it can feel endless. But it isn't a sentence. It's a signal. A signal to reach out. A signal to go inward. A signal to rebuild what's been neglected, connection. Not just with others, but with yourself, your truth, your heart. This isn't about never feeling lonely again. It's about not being ruled by it. Because once you see loneliness for what it is, a call to connect, you realize you're not broken. You're human. And that is something worth sharing. So if you're still here, listening, reading, you've already taken the hardest step. You faced the silence. You looked inward. And maybe, just maybe, that's the moment loneliness starts to let go.